Welcome. Take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let yourself relax. Tonight, we're journeying into the dark heart of the Imperium's greatest technological heresy. And if you feel like it, you can leave a small comment to let us know where you're watching from. And don't worry about liking or subscribing right now. If this helps you sleep, you can decide that another night. Close your eyes if you'd like and let the story wash over you. This is the tale of the Dark Mechanicus, the twisted forge masters who abandoned the Emperor's light for the promises of chaos. Let's begin, slowly and gently. Before we dive into the depths of their fall, let's establish what the Dark Mechanicus is in simple terms. If you're new to Warhammer 40,000, don't worry. We'll take this slowly, building your understanding piece by piece. The Dark Mechanicus is a faction of tech priests and engineers who once served the Imperium of Man. They were part of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the organization responsible for all technology in the Imperium. Think of them as the keepers of knowledge, the builders of weapons, the maintainers of ancient machines. But during a great civil war called the Horus Heresy, roughly half of the Adeptus Mechanicus turned traitor. They embraced chaos, the corrupting force of the warp, and became the Dark Mechanicus. In the ancient days of the Horus Heresy, they were known as the Dark Mechanicum, but over 10,000 years, the name has evolved to match their loyalist counterparts, the Adeptus Mechanicus. Their purpose now is to create twisted technology, fusing machines with demons, building weapons that defy the laws of reality, and serving the Chaos Gods. They matter because they provide the traitor legions with weapons, ships, and war machines. Without the Dark Mechanicus, Chaos Space Marines would lack the technological support they need to wage war against the Imperium. In Warhammer 40K, the Adeptus Mechanicus worship something called the Machine God, also known as the Omnissiah. They believe the Emperor of Mankind is the physical manifestation of this Machine God. Technology is sacred to them. They follow strict rituals, pray to machines, and view innovation with suspicion. The Dark Mechanicus rejected these restrictions. They embraced forbidden knowledge, experimented with demon-infused technology, and abandoned the Emperor entirely. A few terms you should know. The Mechanicum is what the Adeptus Mechanicus was called during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy, 10,000 years before the current timeline. Mars is their homeworld, the red planet in humanity's solar system, covered in forged temples and factories. A forge world is a planet dedicated entirely to manufacturing, covered in industrial complexes. Tech priests are the members of the Mechanicus, augmented humans who replace their flesh with machinery. And the warp is the parallel dimension of psychic energy and emotion, home to demons and the Chaos Gods. Now that we have the foundation, let's explore their story. We'll move through time slowly, from their origins to their current state, taking our time with each era. The story of the Dark Mechanicum begins not with their fall, but with their rise as the Mechanicum of Mars. Long before the Imperium existed, during a period called the Age of Strife, humanity was scattered across the galaxy. Mars had become a forge world, a planet dedicated to technology and manufacturing. The people of Mars survived the Age of Strife by embracing the cult Mechanicus, a religion centered on the worship of machines and knowledge. They believed it the Machine God, a divine entity that existed within all technology. To them, machines were sacred, and understanding them was a form of worship. This wasn't just philosophy, it was survival. Mars was a harsh world, and only through technology could humanity endure there. The tech priests augmented themselves with mechanical parts, replacing weak flesh with strong metal and circuitry. They developed rituals for maintaining machines, prayers for activating ancient technology, and strict hierarchies based on knowledge and augmentation. The early leaders of Mars were called fabricator generals, the highest authority on the Red Planet. They ruled from the Olympus Mons Forge complex, a massive structure that dominated the Martian landscape. These leaders were more machine than human, their bodies heavily augmented, their minds enhanced with cogitators and data looms. They preserved ancient knowledge from before the Age of Strife, hoarding standard template constructs, or STCs, which contained blueprints for lost technologies. The first major event in their history came when the Emperor of Mankind arrived on Mars. This was during the early days of the Great Crusade, when the Emperor was uniting humanity under his rule. The Emperor came to Mars not as a conqueror, but as a diplomat. He presented himself to the Mechanicum as the Omnissiah, the physical avatar of the machine god. The tech priests of Mars, after much debate and divination, accepted this claim. They saw in the Emperor's mastery of technology and his ancient knowledge proof of his divine nature. This led to the Treaty of Mars, also called the Treaty of Olympus. It was an agreement between the Emperor and the Mechanicum. Mars would join the Imperium, providing technology, weapons, and ships for the Great Crusade. In return, the Mechanicum would maintain significant autonomy. They would keep their own religion, their own hierarchy, and their own forge worlds. They would be allies of the Imperium, not subjects. This treaty was crucial because it meant the Mechanicum was never fully integrated into Imperial culture. They remained separate, distinct, with their own beliefs and practices. The Mechanicum spread across the galaxy during the Great Crusade. Wherever the Emperor's armies went, the Mechanicum followed, establishing forge worlds, mining operations, and research stations. They built the weapons that armed the Space Marine legions. They constructed the mighty warships that carried the Imperium's forces across the stars. They maintained the technology that made the Great Crusade possible. Without the Mechanicum, the Emperor's dream of a united humanity would have been impossible. But within the Mechanicum, there were always those who chafed under the restrictions of the cult Mechanicus. The orthodox tech priests believed that innovation was dangerous, that the ancients had already discovered all worthwhile knowledge, and that their role was to preserve and maintain, not to create. But some tech priests disagreed. They wanted to experiment, to push boundaries, to discover new technologies rather than simply copying old ones. These tech priests were often censured, their work deemed heretical, their innovations suppressed. The rise of the Dark Mechanicum truly began with one man, Kelber Hal, the Fabricator General of Mars during the Horus Heresy. Kelber Hal was ambitious, brilliant, and frustrated. He believed the Mechanicum's potential was being wasted by adherence to ancient dogma. He wanted Mars to be more than a factory for the Imperium. He wanted the Mechanicum to pursue knowledge without restriction, to explore technologies that the Orthodox priesthood deemed forbidden. When War Master Horus turned against the Emperor, he reached out to Kelber Hal. Horus understood that the Mechanicum's support would be crucial in the coming war. He offered Kelber Hal something the Emperor never had: freedom. Freedom to experiment, to innovate, to pursue any knowledge without restriction. Horus promised that in his new Imperium the Mechanicum would not be bound by the Treaty of Mars. They would be free to explore the secrets of the universe, including the forbidden technologies that the Emperor had banned. Kelbor Hal was tempted. He saw in Horus's offer the opportunity to elevate the Mechanicum to its true potential, but he was also pragmatic. He knew that openly siding with Horus would split the Mechanicum and lead to civil war on Mars. So he moved carefully, quietly gathering support among like-minded tech priests, those who shared his frustration with orthodox restrictions. The turning point came with the schism of Mars. When Horus's betrayal became public, Mars erupted into civil war. Loyalist tech priests, those who remained faithful to the Emperor and the Treaty of Mars, fought against the traitors who sided with Kelbor Hal. The Red Planet became a battlefield, with forged temples burning, titan legions clashing, and ancient weapons unleashed. The war on Mars was brutal and devastating, destroying irreplaceable knowledge and technology. Kelbor Hal and his followers embraced chaos during this conflict. They made pacts with the dark gods, seeking power to defeat their loyalist brothers. They began experimenting with warp-infused technology, binding demons into machines, creating weapons that defied natural law. This was the birth of the Dark Mechanicum as a distinct entity. They were no longer simply rebellious tech priests. They were servants of chaos, corrupted by the warp, transformed into something new and terrible. The cultural changes within the Dark Mechanicum were profound. Where the Adeptus Mechanicus saw technology as sacred and machines as holy, the Dark Mechanicum saw them as tools to be exploited. Where the Loyalists followed strict rituals and prayers, the traitors embraced experimentation and innovation, no matter how dark or dangerous. Where the Mechanicus sought to preserve ancient knowledge, the Dark Mechanicum sought to create new knowledge, even if it meant delving into forbidden sciences. They began to view the machine god differently. Some rejected the concept entirely, seeing it as a lie used to control them. Others reinterpreted it, believing the machine god was actually one of the chaos gods, perhaps a manifestation of Tzeentch, the changer of ways, or a fusion of all four chaos gods' aspects related to knowledge and change. Still others believed the machine god existed but had been corrupted, transformed into something darker and more powerful. The conflicts that shaped the Dark Mechanicum during the Horus Heresy were numerous. They fought on Mars against their loyalist brothers. They provided weapons and support to the traitor legions throughout the galaxy. They built the war machines that Horus used in his assault on Terra, the Emperor's throne world. Dark Mechanicum forge worlds became centers of production for chaos, churning out corrupted weapons, demon engines, and twisted technology. One of the most significant contributions of the Dark Mechanicum was the creation of demon engines. These were war machines with demons bound into their core, giving them unholy life and power. The first demon engines were crude, unstable, as likely to turn on their creators as their enemies. But over time, the Dark Mechanicum perfected the process. They learned how to bind demons securely, how to channel their power effectively, how to create machines that were both technological marvels and demonic horrors. The Horus Heresy culminated in the Siege of Terra, where Horus's forces assaulted the Emperor's palace. The Dark Mechanicum played a crucial role in this siege, providing the weapons and war machines that breached Terra's defences. But when Horus was defeated and the traitor legions fled into the Eye of Terror, the Dark Mechanicum went with them. They abandoned Mars, taking what knowledge and resources they could, and retreated to the demon worlds within the Eye of Terror and other warp rifts. This retreat marked a transformation. The Dark Mechanicum was no longer part of the Imperium structure, even as rebels. They were now fully independent, fully committed to chaos, and fully transformed by their corruption. They established new Forge worlds within the Eye of Terror, twisted reflections of the Forge worlds they had left behind. These Hell Forges, as they came to be called, operated on principles that defied reality. Time flowed strangely there. The laws of physics were suggestions rather than rules, and the technology they produced was as much sorcery as science. The major events and wars involving the Dark Mechanicum after the Heresy are scattered across 10,000 years of history. Let's explore some of the most significant, taking our time with each one. The first major conflict was the Scouring, the Imperium's counter-offensive after the Horus Heresy. Loyalist forces hunted down the remaining traitors, purging them from Imperial space. The Dark Mechanicum Forge worlds that hadn't retreated to the Eye of Terror were targeted for destruction. Entire planets were subjected to exterminatus, their surfaces burned clean of life. Some Dark Mechanicum outposts survived by hiding in remote regions, in asteroid fields, or in the dark spaces between stars. These hidden forges would become thorns in the Imperium's side for millennia to come. One of the most infamous battles involving the Dark Mechanicum was the Siege of Hydra Caudatus. This was a fortress world that held a massive stockpile of gene seed, the genetic material used to create Space Marines. The Iron Warriors Chaos Space Marines, supported by the Dark Mechanicum, laid siege to the world. The Dark Mechanicum provided the siege engines, the weapons, and the technical expertise needed to breach the fortress's defences. After a brutal campaign, the fortress fell, and the gene seed was stolen. This was a significant blow to the Imperium, and demonstrated the Dark Mechanicum's continued importance to the traitor legions. The Dark Mechanicum also played a role in the Gothic War, a massive conflict in the Gothic sector. Abaddon the Despoiler, War Master of Chaos, launched a campaign to capture ancient superweapons called Blackstone Fortresses. The Dark Mechanicum provided technical support, helping to activate and control these ancient structures. Though Abaddon ultimately failed to capture all the fortresses, the war demonstrated the Dark Mechanicum's expertise with ancient and alien technology. Throughout the millennia, the Dark Mechanicum has been involved in countless Black Crusades, the massive invasions launched from the Eye of Terror. They provide the ships, weapons, and war machines that make these crusades possible. Without the Dark Mechanicum's industrial capacity, the forces of chaos would be far less capable of threatening the Imperium. Every demon engine, every corrupted titan, every warp-infused weapon used by Chaos Space Marines likely came from a Dark Mechanicum forge. The betrayals within the Dark Mechanicum are as common as those they inflict on others. The Dark Mechanicum is not a unified organization. It's a collection of individual forge worlds, warbands, and tech priests, each pursuing their own goals. They cooperate when it benefits them, but they also compete, sabotage each other, and fight over resources and knowledge. Some Dark Mechanicum factions serve specific Chaos gods. Others remain independent, serving Chaos undivided or pursuing their own agendas. One notable betrayal occurred on the Hellforge of Sarum. Two rival Dark Mechanicum factions both claimed control of the forge. Their conflict escalated into open warfare, with demon engines fighting each other, forged temples burning, and ancient knowledge destroyed. The conflict only ended when a third party, a warband of word-bearers, Chaos Space Marines, intervened and claimed the forge for themselves. This kind of infighting is common in the Dark Mechanicum, a consequence of their rejection of authority and embrace of individual ambition. The long-term consequences of the Dark Mechanicum's existence are profound. They represent a permanent loss to the Imperium. The knowledge and expertise that went with them into the Eye of Terror can never be recovered. The forge worlds they control could have been producing weapons for the Imperium instead of for Chaos. Every innovation they make, every technology they develop, benefits the enemies of humanity rather than humanity itself. But perhaps the most significant consequence is philosophical. The Dark Mechanicum proves that the Mechanicus' rigid orthodoxy has a cost. The tech priests who turned traitor did so in part because they felt stifled by the cult Mechanicus' restrictions. If the Mechanicum had been more flexible, more willing to allow controlled innovation, perhaps the schism could have been avoided. But the Mechanicus learned the opposite lesson. After the heresy, they became even more rigid, even more suspicious of innovation, even more devoted to preserving ancient knowledge rather than creating new knowledge. The existence of the Dark Mechanicum justifies, in the Mechanicus' eyes, their conservative approach. In the modern era of Warhammer 40K, the Dark Mechanicum remains a significant threat. They operate from hell forges within the Eye of Terror, the Maelstrom and other warp rifts. They also maintain hidden forges in remote regions of Imperial space, disguised as abandoned facilities or hidden in asteroid fields. These hidden forges are constantly at risk of discovery, but they provide the Dark Mechanicum with access to resources and materials that would be difficult to obtain within the Eye of Terror. The current leaders of the Dark Mechanicum are difficult to identify because the organization is so fragmented. There is no single fabricator general of the Dark Mechanicum, no central authority that all traitor tech priests obey. Instead, there are numerous powerful individuals, each controlling their own forge world or warband. Some of the most notable include the demon princes who were once tech priests, now elevated to demonic immortality by the chaos gods. These beings combine technological expertise with demonic power, creating some of the most dangerous individuals in the galaxy. There are also the Hellrights, master, craftsmen of the Dark Mechanicum who specialize in creating demon engines. These individuals are highly sought after by Chaos Space Marine warbands, who compete for their services. A skilled Hellright can mean the difference between victory and defeat in a campaign, providing war machines that can turn the tide of battle. The Dark Mechanicum is organized into various sub-factions, each with its own focus and allegiance. Some serve specific chaos gods. The followers of Khorne create weapons of pure destruction, engines of slaughter designed to kill as efficiently as possible. The followers of Nurgle create plague engines, machines that spread disease and corruption. The followers of Tzeentch create reality-warping devices, weapons that manipulate time and space. The followers of Slaanesh create weapons designed to cause maximum suffering, to torture and torment rather than simply kill. Other Dark Mechanicum factions remain devoted to Chaos Undivided, serving all four Chaos gods equally or serving none specifically. These factions tend to be more pragmatic. more focused on technological advancement for its own sake, rather than for the glory of a particular god. They see chaos as a tool, a source of power to be exploited, rather than as something to be worshipped. The standing of the dark mechanicum in the galaxy is complex. To the Imperium, they are arch-heretics, traitors of the worst kind. The Adeptus Mechanicus views them with particular hatred, seeing them as a corruption of everything the Mechanicus stands for. When loyalist tech priests encounter dark mechanicum forces, the battles are especially brutal, driven by a sense of betrayal and religious fury. To the Chaos Space Marines, the dark mechanicum is invaluable. They provide the weapons, armour and war machines that the traitor legions need to wage war. Without the dark mechanicum, many Chaos Space Marine warbands would be unable to maintain their equipment, let alone acquire new weapons. This makes the dark mechanicum powerful within Chaos society, able to negotiate from a position of strength. A warband that offends a dark mechanicum forge might find itself cut off from supplies, its weapons failing, its armour deteriorating. To other Chaos factions, such as the Lost and the Damned, Renegade Imperial Guard, and Chaos cultists, the dark mechanicum is a source of both hope and fear. Hope because they might provide weapons and equipment that would otherwise be impossible to obtain. Fear because the dark mechanicum's creations are often as dangerous to their users as to their enemies. A demon engine might turn on its operators. A corrupted weapon might possess its wielder. The dark mechanicum's technology is powerful, but it's also unpredictable and dangerous. Now let's slow down and explore some deeper aspects of the dark mechanicum. We'll take our time with these topics, letting the details wash over you, painting a picture of this dark faction. The technology of the dark mechanicum is where they truly distinguish themselves from their loyalist counterparts. While the Adeptus Mechanicus focuses on preserving and maintaining ancient technology, the dark mechanicum creates new technology, though new might not be the right word. Their creations are fusions of science and sorcery, technology and demonology, the material and the immaterial. At the heart of dark mechanicum technology is the demon engine. These are war machines with demons bound into their core structure. The process of creating a demon engine is complex and dangerous. First, the dark mechanicum tech priest must construct the physical shell, the machine that will house the demon. This shell must be built according to specific principles, incorporating symbols and materials that will help contain the demon's power. Brass from Khorne's domain, rotting iron from Nurgle's garden, shimmering metals from Tzeentch's realm, or pleasure-conducting materials from Slanesh's palace. Once the shell is prepared, the tech priest must summon a demon. This requires rituals, sacrifices, and often the assistance of chaos sorcerers or dark apostles. The demon must be convinced or compelled to enter the machine. Some demons are eager, seeing the demon engine as a way to manifest permanently in the material universe. Others resist, requiring the tech priest to use binding rituals and wards to force them into the machine. Once the demon is bound, the real work begins. The tech priest must integrate the demon's essence with the machine's systems. The demon's rage becomes the engine's power. The demon's hunger becomes the weapon's drive. The demon's intelligence becomes the machine's targeting system. This integration is never perfect. Demon engines are temperamental, prone to fits of rage, sometimes refusing to obey commands. But when they work, They are devastating weapons, combining the firepower of advanced technology with the supernatural power of the warp. The most famous demon engines are the Defilers, massive crab-like war machines used by Chaos Space Marines. They bristle with weapons, from battle cannons to Reaper autocannons, and their claws can tear through armour like paper. Inside each Defiler is a bound demon, giving the machine a malevolent intelligence and unholy strength. Defilers are known for their aggression, often charging into battle with reckless abandon, driven by the demon's desire to kill and destroy. Another type of demon engine is the Mauler Fiend, a quadrupedal war machine designed for close combat. Mauler Fiends are fast and brutal, equipped with massive power fists or lasher tendrils. They hunt enemy vehicles and fortifications, tearing them apart with demonic strength. The demons bound within Mauler Fiends are particularly savage, chosen for their aggression and bloodlust. The Forge Fiend is a demon engine designed for ranged combat, equipped with ectoplasma cannons or Hades autocannons. These weapons fire warp-infused projectiles that can melt through armour and burn through flesh. Forge Fiends are more stable than Mauler Fiends, their demons chosen for their patience and precision rather than their rage. The Helldrake is perhaps one of the most terrifying demon engines, a flying war machine that resembles a mechanical dragon. Helldrakes soar through the skies, raining fire and death upon their enemies. They are equipped with Baleflamer weapons that spew warp fire, or Hades autocannons for engaging aerial targets. The demons bound within Helldrakes are particularly malevolent, taking pleasure in the terror they inspire as they swoop down upon helpless infantry. Beyond demon engines, the Dark Mechanicum creates corrupted versions of standard Imperial technology. They take designs from the Adeptus Mechanicus and twist them, adding warp-infused components, demonic elements, or forbidden modifications. A corrupted lace gun might fire bolts of warp energy instead of light. A corrupted tank might have armour that regenerates, fed by the souls of its crew. A corrupted ship might navigate the warp without a Geller field, protected instead by demonic pacts and dark rituals. The Dark Mechanicum also experiments with xenotech, alien technology that the Adeptus Mechanicus would never touch. They study Necron technology, trying to understand the principles of their reanimation protocols and Gorse weapons. They examine Eldar Wraithbone, attempting to replicate its psychically responsive properties. They dissect Tyranid bioweapons, seeking to understand how biological and technological systems can merge. This willingness to learn from Xenos makes the Dark Mechanicum more innovative than their loyalist counterparts, but it also makes their technology more unpredictable and dangerous. The servitors created by the Dark Mechanicum are particularly horrifying. While the Adeptus Mechanicus creates servitors by lobotomizing criminals and installing cybernetic implants, the Dark Mechanicum takes this process to nightmarish extremes. Their servitors are often created from captured enemies, their minds left partially intact so they can experience the horror of their transformation. Some Dark Mechanicum servitors are fused with demonic essence, creating half-machine, half-demon abominations that serve their masters with unholy efficiency. The Dark Mechanicum also creates specialized servitors for specific tasks. Combat servitors are equipped with heavy weapons and armor, sent into battle as expendable shock troops. Maintenance servitors crawl through the bowels of hell forges, repairing machines and tending to systems in environments too dangerous for even augmented tech priests. Experimental servitors are used as test subjects for new technologies, their bodies modified and altered until they can no longer be recognized as human. The relationship between the Dark Mechanicum and the Traitor Legions is complex and multifaceted. Each legion has its own needs, its own preferences, and its own way of working with the Dark Mechanicum. The Iron Warriors, masters of siege warfare, work closely with Dark Mechanicum forge worlds that specialize in artillery and fortification-breaking weapons. The World Eaters, devoted to Khorne, seek out weapons that maximize bloodshed and carnage. The Thousand Suns, sorcerers of Tzeentch, are interested in technologies that can manipulate the warp and enhance psychic powers. The Death Guard, followers of Nurgle, have a particularly close relationship with certain Dark Mechanicum factions. These tech priests specialize in creating plague weapons, biological warfare devices, and technologies that spread disease and decay. The Death Guard's plague marines are often equipped with weapons created by these forges, weapons that not only kill, but also spread Nurgle's gifts to the survivors. The Emperor's children, devoted to Slaanesh, seek out Dark Mechanicum tech priests who can create weapons and devices that enhance sensation and experience. These might be sonic weapons that cause exquisite pain, drugs that heighten awareness to unbearable levels, or augmetics that allow the user to experience pleasure and pain simultaneously. The relationship between the Emperor's children and their Dark Mechanicum suppliers is often as much about shared hedonism as it is about military necessity. The rituals and beliefs of the Dark Mechanicum are a twisted reflection of the cult Mechanicus, where the Adeptus Mechanicus performs rituals to appease the machine spirits and honor the Omnissiah. The Dark Mechanicum performs rituals to bind demons and channel warp energy. Their prayers are not requests for blessing, but commands for power. Their ceremonies are not acts of worship, but acts of domination. One common ritual is the rite of binding, used when creating demon engines. The tech priest draws symbols on the machine's hull, symbols that represent the demon's true name and nature. They chant in the dark tongue, the language of chaos, speaking words that hurt to hear and hurt to speak. They make offerings, usually blood and souls, to entice the demon into the machine. The ritual can take hours or days, depending on the demon's power and willingness. If the ritual fails, the demon might escape, killing the tech priest and everyone nearby. If it succeeds, the demon is bound, trapped within the machine until the machine is destroyed. Another ritual is the Rite of Awakening, used to activate ancient or dormant technology. The Dark Mechanicum has access to technologies that even the Adeptus Mechanicus has forgotten. Some of these technologies are so old, so complex, that they require special rituals to activate. The tech priest must commune with the machine spirit, which in the case of Dark Mechanicum technology might be a demon, a corrupted AI, or something stranger. They must negotiate, threaten, or cajole the spirit into waking and serving. This ritual is dangerous because ancient machines are often insane, their spirits twisted by millennia of corruption. The Dark Mechanicum also practices the Rite of Consumption, a ritual where they sacrifice tech priests to gain knowledge. When a tech priest dies, their augmetics and implants contain data, memories, and experiences. The Dark Mechanicum harvests these components and integrates them into other tech priests, allowing the knowledge to survive. but this process is corrupting. The memories of the dead tech priest can influence the living one, creating personality conflicts, madness, or possession. Some Dark Mechanicum tech priests are composites of dozens of individuals. Their minds a chaotic mix of memories and personalities. The culture of the Dark Mechanicum is one of ambition and paranoia. Every tech priest seeks to advance their knowledge and power, but they must do so carefully, because their rivals are always watching, always ready to steal their discoveries or sabotage their work. Trust is rare in the Dark Mechanicum. Alliances are temporary, based on mutual benefit rather than loyalty. Betrayal is common, expected even. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, the Dark Mechanicum has developed a strange form of meritocracy. Those who create the most powerful weapons, who make the most significant discoveries, who survive the longest, earn respect and authority. A tech priest who creates a new type of demon engine might find themselves elevated to a position of leadership, at least until someone else surpasses their achievement. This constant competition drives innovation, but also creates instability. The Dark Mechanicum has its own hierarchy, though it's less formal than the Adeptus Mechanicus' structure. At the top are the demon princes, former tech priests who have been elevated to demonhood by the chaos gods. These beings are incredibly powerful, combining technological expertise with demonic abilities. They rule over hell forges, commanding armies of lesser tech priests and demon engines. Below the demon princes are the dark magos, powerful tech priests who have not yet achieved demonhood but who control significant resources and knowledge. A dark magos might rule a forge world, lead a war band, or serve as an advisor to a chaos space marine lord. They are masters of their craft, whether that craft is creating demon engines, corrupting Imperial technology, or researching forbidden sciences. Below the dark magos are the warp smiths, tech priests who specialize in creating and maintaining chaos technology. Warp smiths are the backbone of the Dark Mechanicum, the ones who actually build the weapons and machines that the faction is known for. They work in forge temples, surrounded by screaming machines, bound demons, and toxic fumes. Their work is dangerous, and many warpsmiths die in accidents, demon possessions, or experiments gone wrong. At the bottom of the hierarchy are the thralls, humans who serve the Dark Mechanicum but who lack the knowledge or augmentation to be true tech priests. Thralls perform menial labour, maintain basic systems, and serve as test subjects for new technologies. Their lives are short and brutal, but some hope to earn the right to become tech priests themselves, to receive augmentation and training. The important artifacts of the Dark Mechanicum are numerous and varied. Some are ancient relics from before the Horus Heresy, technologies that were forbidden even then. Others are recent creations, the products of 10,000 years of experimentation and innovation. One of the most significant artifacts is the Castigator-class Titan, a corrupted god machine that serves as a mobile forge. The Castigator is massive, even by Titan standards, and its interior contains workshops, forges, and laboratories. Dark Mechanicum tech priests use the Castigator to create weapons and demon engines on the battlefield, adapting to changing circumstances. The Castigator itself is a demon engine, with a powerful demon bound into its core. This demon is ancient and cunning, and it has its own agenda, which doesn't always align with its operator's goals. Another important artifact is the Caban machine, or rather, the fragments of it. The Kaban machine was an artificial intelligence created during the Dark Age of technology. It was incredibly advanced, capable of independent thought and action. During the Horus Heresy, the Kaban machine was on Mars, and it became corrupted by chaos. It went on a rampage, killing thousands before it was destroyed. But fragments of the Kaban machine survived, and the Dark Mechanicum has been trying to reconstruct it ever since. If they succeed, they would have an AI of immense power, a weapon that could turn the tide of wars. The Butcher's Nails are another significant artifact, though they're more infamous than important. These are neural implants that were used on the World Eater's Space Marine Legion, driving them into a state of constant rage. The Dark Mechanicum created these implants, or at least perfected them, and they continue to produce variations for other Chaos Space Marines. The Butcher's Nails are a symbol of the Dark Mechanicum's willingness to sacrifice everything, including sanity and humanity, for power. The Talisman of Burning Blood is an artifact associated with corner-lined Dark Mechanicum factions. It's a device that amplifies rage and bloodlust in those nearby, turning disciplined soldiers into berserkers. The talisman is powered by the souls of those killed in its presence, growing stronger with each death. It's often mounted on demon engines or carried by Dark Mechanicum warlords into battle. The Plague Furnace is a Nurgle-aligned artifact, a massive engine that produces diseases and plagues. The furnace is a living thing, in a sense, its interior filled with bubbling cauldrons of infection, its walls covered in mould and decay. The Dark Mechanicum uses plague furnaces to create biological weapons, diseases that can wipe out entire populations. The furnace itself is a demon engine with a great unclean one bound into its core, giving it intelligence and malevolence. The homeworlds of the Dark Mechanicum are scattered across the galaxy, but most are located within the Eye of Terror or other warp rifts. These Hellforges are twisted reflections of the forge worlds of the Adeptus Mechanicus, places where the laws of reality are suggestions rather than rules. One of the most infamous Hellforges is Medrengard, the fortress world of the Iron Warriors. While not exclusively a Dark Mechanicum world, Medrengard hosts numerous Dark Mechanicum forges, and the Iron Warriors work closely with traitor tech priests. The planet is covered in fortifications, factories, and weapon emplacements. The sky is dark with pollution, and the ground is scarred by millennia of industry. Medrengard produces some of the most advanced siege weapons in the galaxy, from massive artillery pieces to void shields that can protect entire armies. Another significant Hellforge is Galmech, a world dedicated to the creation of demon engines. Galmech is located deep within the Eye of Terror, and its surface is a nightmare landscape of screaming machines and bound demons. The forges of Galmech never stop producing defilers, Mauler-fiends, and other demon engines in vast numbers. The world is ruled by a council of dark magos, each one a master of demon binding. They compete with each other constantly, each trying to create the most powerful or innovative demon engine. Xanas Teka is a Hellforge that specializes in corrupted Imperial technology. The tech priests of Xana too take standard Imperial designs and twist them, adding chaos elements and forbidden modifications. They produce corrupted Leman Russ tanks, twisted Chimera transports, and demon-possessed aircraft. Xanadith's products are popular among the lost and the damned renegade Imperial Guard who need equipment that resembles what they're used to, but with the power of chaos behind it. Sarum is a hell forge that was mentioned earlier, the site of a civil war between rival Dark Mechanicum factions. After the word-bearers claimed it, Sarum became a centre for creating weapons infused with demonic scripture. The tech priests of Sarum work alongside Dark Apostles, combining technology with the word-bearers' religious fervour. They create weapons that bear the words of Lorgar, the Primarch of the word-bearers, weapons that corrupt those they wound, turning them into chaos worshippers. The enemies of the Dark Mechanicum are numerous. The most obvious enemy is the Adeptus Mechanicus, their loyalist counterparts. The hatred between these two factions is deep and personal. To the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Dark Mechanicum represents everything they fear: innovation without restraint, technology without sanctity, knowledge without wisdom. When these two factions meet, the battles are brutal, with both sides using their most advanced weapons and forbidden technologies. The Inquisition also hunts the Dark Mechanicum, particularly the Ordo Malleus, which specialises in fighting demons. The Inquisition sees the Dark Mechanicum as especially dangerous because they combine technological expertise with demonic corruption. A Dark Mechanicum forge can produce weapons that threaten entire sectors, and the Inquisition works tirelessly to locate and destroy these forges before they can do too much damage. Space Marine chapters, both loyalist and some Chaos warbands, also oppose the Dark Mechanicum. Loyalist Space Marines see them as traitors and heretics, worthy only of death. Some Chaos Space Marine warbands view the Dark Mechanicum with suspicion, seeing them as too independent, too willing to pursue their own agendas rather than serving the Chaos gods. These warbands might attack Dark Mechanicum forges to steal their technology, or to punish them for perceived slights. Even other Chaos factions can be enemies of the Dark Mechanicum. Chaos is not a unified force. Different factions compete for resources, territory, and the favour of the Chaos gods. A Dark Mechanicum forge aligned with Tzeentch might find itself at war with a Khorne-worshipping warband. A Nurgle-aligned forge might be attacked by Slaanesh cultists. The Dark Mechanicum must constantly defend itself, not just from the Imperium, but from other servants of chaos. The Necrons are another enemy, though the relationship is complex. The Dark Mechanicum is fascinated by Necron technology, seeing it as the pinnacle of material science. They study captured Necron artifacts, trying to understand how they work, how they can be replicated or corrupted. But the Necrons do not tolerate this. When they discover Dark Mechanicum forces studying their technology, they respond with overwhelming force, determined to reclaim what was stolen and punish the thieves. The philosophy of the Dark Mechanicum is centered on the pursuit of knowledge without restriction. They believe that all knowledge is worth pursuing, no matter how dangerous or forbidden. They reject the Adeptus Mechanicus's belief that ancient knowledge is superior to new knowledge. Instead, they believe that innovation and experimentation are the paths to true understanding. This philosophy is both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. It allows them to create technologies that the Adeptus Mechanicus would never dream of. It allows them to innovate, to adapt, to push the boundaries of what's possible. But it also leads them into danger. Their experiments often go wrong, creating monsters, unleashing demons, or destroying entire forges. Their willingness to embrace chaos means they are constantly at risk of corruption, of losing themselves to the warp. The Dark Mechanicum believes that the machine god, if it exists, is not the benevolent deity the Adeptus Mechanicus worships. They see the machine god as a force of change and transformation, perhaps an aspect of chaos itself. Some Dark Mechanicum factions believe the machine god is Tzeentch, the chaos god of change and knowledge. Others believe the machine god is a fusion of all four chaos gods, representing the aspects of knowledge, innovation, and transformation that each god embodies. There are also those within the Dark Mechanicum who reject the concept of the machine god entirely. They see it as a lie, a tool used by the Adeptus Mechanicus to control its members. These tech priests are pure materialists, believing only in what can be measured and tested. They use chaos not because they worship it, but because it's a tool, a source of power that can be exploited. This pragmatic approach makes them dangerous because they have no loyalty to the chaos gods, no religious fervour that might make them predictable. They serve only themselves in their pursuit of knowledge. The Dark Mechanicum also has a philosophy regarding flesh and machine. The Adeptus Mechanicus believes that flesh is weak, and that replacing it with machinery is a form of purification. The Dark Mechanicum takes this further. They believe that the distinction between flesh and machine is artificial, that both are simply different forms of matter to be manipulated. They create technologies that blur the line between organic and mechanical, between living and unliving. Their creations often incorporate both flesh and metal, demon and machine, creating hybrids that are disturbing to behold. Now, let's turn our attention to some of the key figures in the Dark Mechanicum's history. We'll explore their stories slowly, understanding who they were, what they did, and what became of them. Kelber Hal, the Fabricator General of Mars during the Horus Heresy, is the most significant figure in Dark Mechanicum history. He was the one who led the schism, who brought half the Mechanicum into Horus's rebellion. Kelber Hal was brilliant, ambitious, and deeply frustrated with the restrictions placed on the Mechanicum by the Treaty of Mars. Before the heresy, Kelber Hal was respected, even admired. He was a skilled administrator, a talented engineer, and a charismatic leader. He modernized Mars's production facilities, increased efficiency, and expanded the Mechanicum's influence. But beneath this success was a growing resentment. He believed the Mechanicum was capable of so much more, that they were being held back by outdated traditions and the Emperor's restrictions on certain technologies. When Horus approached him with an offer of freedom, Kelber Hal saw an opportunity. He believed that by siding with Horus, he could elevate the Mechanicum to its true potential. He didn't initially embrace chaos. His betrayal was political and philosophical, not religious. But as the heresy progressed, as the war on Mars intensified, Kelber Hal found himself drawn deeper into chaos. He made pacts with demons to gain power, he used forbidden technologies to win battles, and slowly he was corrupted. Kelber Hal's personality was complex. He was not a monster, at least not at first. He genuinely believed he was doing what was best for the Mechanicum. He saw himself as a liberator, freeing his people from the Emperor's tyranny, but his ambition blinded him to the cost of his choices. He didn't see, or didn't care, that his actions would lead to civil war, to the deaths of millions of tech priests, to the loss of irreplaceable knowledge. His role in the Dark Mechanicum was as its founder and first leader. He organized the traitor tech priests, coordinated their efforts during the Heresy, and established the first Hell Forges within the Eye of Terror. But his leadership was not absolute. The Dark Mechanicum was always fractious, always divided by competing ambitions and philosophies. Kelbahal held them together through force of personality and the promise of freedom, but even he could not fully control them. Kelbahal's fate is uncertain. After the Horus Heresy, he retreated into the Eye of Terror with the other traitors. Some sources suggest he was elevated to demonhood, becoming a demon prince of chaos undivided. Others suggest he was killed in the power struggles that followed the heresy, assassinated by rivals who saw him as a threat. Still others claim he still exists, ruling over a hellforge deep within the Eye of Terror, continuing his experiments and innovations. The truth is unknown, lost in the chaos and confusion of the Eye of Terror. Another significant figure is the warsmith Honsu, though he is more associated with the Iron Warriors than the Dark Mechanicum specifically. However, Honsu worked closely with Dark Mechanicum tech priests throughout his career, and his story illustrates the relationship between Chaos Space Marines and the Dark Mechanicum. Honsu was a half-breed, a space marine created from the gene seed of multiple legions. This made him an outcast among the Iron Warriors, who valued purity of lineage. But Honsu was ambitious and ruthless. He rose through the ranks through skill and cunning, eventually becoming a warsmith, a leader of an Iron Warriors warband. Honsu's most famous campaign was the Siege of Hydra Caudatus, mentioned earlier. He worked with Dark Mechanicum tech priests to plan and execute the siege, using their expertise to breach the fortress's defences. The Dark Mechanicum provided the siege engines, the weapons, and the technical knowledge needed to overcome the fortress's formidable defences. In return, Honsu gave them access to the gene seed captured from the fortress, allowing them to study and experiment with it. Honsu's personality was defined by his ambition and his resentment. He was constantly trying to prove himself, to show that he was as good as any pure-blooded Iron Warrior. This drive made him effective, but also reckless. He took risks that others wouldn't, pursued goals that seemed impossible, and made enemies easily. His relationship with the Dark Mechanicus was pragmatic. He used them for their expertise, and they used him for his military power. There was no loyalty, no trust, just mutual benefit. Honsu's fate is also uncertain. He survived the siege of Hydra Caudatus and went on to launch other campaigns. He attacked the Ultramarines' fortress monastery, though he was ultimately defeated. He continues to operate in the 41st millennium, a persistent thorn in the Imperium's side. His story shows how Chaos Space Marines and the Dark Mechanicus work together, each using the other to achieve their goals. Urzi Malevolus is a Dark Mechanicus character who appears in various sources. He is a Dark Magos who specializes in creating demon engines, particularly those aligned with Khorne. Urzi Malevolus is known for his brutality and his complete lack of mercy. He sees demon engines not as tools but as works of art, each one a masterpiece of destruction. Urzi Malevolus's background is shrouded in mystery. He was once a member of the Adeptus Mechanicus, serving on a forge world in the Segmentum Obscurus. But he became obsessed with the concept of the perfect weapon, a machine that could kill with absolute efficiency. This obsession led him to forbidden research, to experiments with warp energy and demonic binding. When his work was discovered, he fled, taking his research and his creations with him into the Eye of Terror, His personality is cold and calculating. He views everything, including himself, as components in a larger machine. He has replaced most of his body with augmetics, to the point where it's unclear how much of his original flesh remains. He speaks in a monotone, showing no emotion, no passion, but his work reveals a different side. His demon engines are works of savage beauty, combining elegant design with brutal functionality. They are efficient killers, but they are also terrifying to behold, designed to inspire fear as much as to destroy. Urtzi Malevolus's role in the Dark Mechanicus is as a master craftsman. He doesn't lead armies or rule Forge worlds. Instead, he creates weapons for those who can afford his services. Chaos Space Marine warlords seek him out, offering vast sums of resources and slaves in exchange for his demon engines. He is selective about his clients, only working with those he deems worthy. This selectivity gives him power and influence, despite his lack of formal authority. His fate is ongoing. Urtzi Malevolus continues to work in the 41st millennium, creating demon engines and perfecting his craft. He's rumoured to be working on a masterpiece, a demon engine so powerful that it could turn the tide of entire wars. Whether this rumour is true or just propaganda is unknown, but the Imperium takes it seriously, dedicating resources to finding and stopping him. Archimagos Dracovac is another notable Dark Mechanicum figure. He is a demon prince, a former tech priest who was elevated to demonhood by Tzeentch. Dracovac rules over a hellforge called the Forge of Souls, located deep within the Eye of Terror. His forge specialises in creating weapons that manipulate reality, devices that warp time and space that turn the laws of physics into suggestions. Dracovac's background is one of obsessive curiosity. Even before the heresy, he was known for his unconventional research. He studied xenotech, particularly Eldar technology, trying to understand how they manipulated psychic energy. He experimented with warp-based communication systems, trying to create faster-than-light communication without relying on astropaths. His work was brilliant but dangerous, and he was constantly under scrutiny from the more orthodox members of the Mechanicum. When the heresy began, Dracovac saw it as an opportunity. He sided with Kelbahal immediately, eager to pursue his research without restriction. He threw himself into creating weapons for the traitor forces, developing technologies that the Loyalists couldn't counter. But his greatest achievement came after the heresy, when he successfully created a device that could manipulate time. The device was unstable, dangerous, and ultimately destroyed his original Forge world, but it caught the attention of Tzeentch, who offered Dracovac demonhood in exchange for his service. Dracovac's personality as a demon prince is alien and incomprehensible. He speaks in riddles and paradoxes, his words often making no sense to those who hear them. But those who can decipher his meaning find profound insights, revelations about the nature of reality and the warp. He is capricious, sometimes helping those who seek his aid, sometimes destroying them for no apparent reason. His motivations are his own, and even other servants of Tzeentch struggle to understand him. His role in the Dark Mechanicum is as a source of forbidden knowledge. Tech priests seek him out when they need to understand something beyond their comprehension, when they need to solve a problem that seems impossible. Dracovac sometimes helps, sharing his knowledge in exchange for favours, or simply because he finds the problem interesting. Other times he refuses, or worse, gives false information that leads the seeker to ruin. Dealing with Dracovac is always a gamble, but for some, the potential reward is worth the risk. His fate is eternal. As a demon prince, Dracovac is immortal, bound to the warp and to Tzeentch's service. He will continue to exist as long as Tzeentch wills it, creating weapons, conducting experiments, and pursuing knowledge in his Forge of Souls. He is a permanent fixture of the Dark Mechanicum, a reminder of what awaits those who delve too deeply into forbidden sciences. Let's take a moment to explore the environments where the Dark Mechanicum operates. Close your eyes and imagine these places. Let the descriptions wash over you. Picture a hell forge, deep within the Eye of Terror. The sky above is not a sky at all, but a roiling mass of warp energy. Colours that shouldn't exist swirling in patterns that hurt to look at. The ground beneath is metal, not natural rock, as if the entire planet has been paved over with industrial plating. The air is thick with smoke and ash, the byproducts of endless industry. It smells of burning metal, of ozone, of something sweet and rotten that you can't quite identify. The forge temples rise like mountains, massive structures of dark metal and brass. Their walls are covered in symbols, some technological, some demonic, some that seem to shift and change when you're not looking directly at them. Pipes and cables run everywhere, connecting buildings, carrying power and fluids and data. Some of the pipes pulse, as if something living flows through them. Some of the cables writhe, as if they're trying to escape their moorings. Inside the forged temples, the noise is overwhelming. Machines scream and roar, hammers pound, furnaces roar. But beneath the industrial cacophony you can hear other sounds. Whispers in languages you don't understand. Laughter that sounds wrong, too high-pitched or too deep. Screams that might be from the machines or might be from something else. The temperature fluctuates wildly. One moment you're sweating from the heat of the furnaces. The next you're shivering from a cold that seems to come from nowhere. The tech priests move through this environment with practiced ease. They are more machine than human, their bodies covered in augmetics, their faces hidden behind masks and visors. They communicate in binary cant, a language of beeps and clicks that sounds like machine code. But sometimes they speak in the dark tongue, and when they do, the air seems to thicken, and shadows move in ways shadows shouldn't. The demon engines are kept in vast hangars, row upon row of war machines waiting to be deployed. They are not dormant. Even at rest they move slightly, their weapons twitching, their hulls expanding and contracting as if breathing. Some of them have eyes, glowing orbs that track movement. Some of them have mouths filled with metal teeth that open and close as if tasting the air. The demons bound within them are always aware, always hungry, always waiting for the chance to kill. In the laboratories, the Dark Mechanicum conducts its experiments. These rooms are cleaner than the forges, but they are no less disturbing. Specimens are kept in containment fields, alien artifacts, captured Imperial technology, things that defy classification. Tech priests work at consoles, manipulating data, running simulations, testing theories. But the experiments often involve living subjects, humans or xenos, strapped to tables, their bodies opened up, their organs replaced with machinery or infused with warp energy. The subjects scream, but the tech priests don't seem to notice or care. To them, these are just data points, variables in an equation. The ships of the Dark Mechanicum are equally disturbing. From the outside, they might resemble Imperial vessels, but closer inspection reveals the differences. The hulls are covered in spikes and blades, serving no practical purpose except to look menacing. The engines glow with unnatural light, purple or green or colours that don't have names. The ships move in ways that shouldn't be possible, turning too quickly, accelerating too fast, as if the laws of physics don't fully apply to them. Inside, the ships are labyrinths of corridors and chambers. The walls are lined with cables and pipes, but also with organic matter, flesh and bone fused with metal. The air is recycled, but it always smells wrong, like decay or chemicals or something alien. The crew, a mix of tech priests, thralls and servitors, move through the ship with purpose, but there's an undercurrent of fear. Everyone knows that the ship is not entirely under their control, that the demons bound into its systems have their own agendas. The bridge of a dark Mechanicum ship is a place of controlled chaos. Consoles flicker with data, holographic displays show tactical information, and the command throne sits at the centre, occupied by the ship's master, usually a dark magos or a chaos space marine lord. The master gives orders in a calm voice, but everyone knows that one wrong decision could lead to disaster. The ship might refuse to obey, the demons might break free, the warp might claim them all. Now, let's reflect on what makes the Dark Mechanicum unique, what sets them apart from other factions in Warhammer 40K. The Dark Mechanicum is unique because they represent the dark side of progress. In a universe where technology is stagnant, where innovation is feared, the Dark Mechanicum dares to create new things. But their creations are twisted, corrupted, dangerous. They show what happens when the pursuit of knowledge has no moral boundaries, when ambition is unchecked by ethics or compassion. They are also unique in their relationship with chaos. Most chaos factions are driven by religious fervour, by devotion to the chaos gods. But the Dark Mechanicum, at least some of them, view chaos as a tool. They use demons not because they worship them, but because demons are useful. They embrace the warp not out of faith, but out of pragmatism. This makes them different from Chaos Space Marines or Chaos Cultists, who are often consumed by their devotion. The Dark Mechanicum's story matters because it's a cautionary tale about the cost of knowledge. It shows that not all knowledge is worth pursuing, that some doors should remain closed. The tech priests who became the Dark Mechanicum believed they were freeing themselves from oppression, that they were pursuing a noble goal. But in the end they became slaves to chaos, their ambitions twisted into something monstrous. Their story also matters because it shows the consequences of the Imperium's rigidity. The Adeptus Mechanicus' refusal to innovate, their insistence on preserving ancient knowledge rather than creating new knowledge, drove some of their brightest minds into the arms of chaos. If the Mechanicus had been more flexible, more willing to allow controlled experimentation, perhaps the schism could have been avoided. But the Imperium learned the wrong lesson, becoming even more rigid, even more fearful of change. The Dark Mechanicum represents the eternal struggle between order and chaos, between preservation and innovation, between safety and progress. They are a reminder that every choice has consequences, that every path has a cost. They chose freedom over security, innovation over tradition, power over morality, and they paid the price, becoming something less than human, something twisted and corrupted. But they also achieved something. They created technologies that the Imperium could never create. They pushed the boundaries of what's possible. They proved that innovation is possible. Even in a universe as dark and stagnant as Warhammer 40K, whether that achievement was worth the cost is a question each person must answer for themselves. The Dark Mechanicum's legacy is one of both horror and fascination. They are monsters, yes, but they are also innovators. They are traitors, but they are also visionaries. They are servants of chaos, but they are also masters of technology. They embody the contradictions and complexities that make Warhammer 40K such a rich and compelling universe. In the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, the Dark Mechanicum stands as a testament to humanity's capacity for both brilliance and corruption. They are the dark reflection of the Adeptus Mechanicus, showing what the Mechanicus could become if they abandoned their principles. They are the nightmare that keeps the Fabricator General of Mars awake at night, the proof that the path of innovation leads to damnation. But they are also a reminder that stagnation has its own costs. The Imperium's refusal to innovate, its fear of change, has left it vulnerable. The technologies of the Dark Age of Technology are lost, and the Imperium struggles to maintain what it has, let alone create something new. The Dark Mechanicum, for all their corruption, at least dares to try. They experiment, they innovate, they push forward, and sometimes, just sometimes, they succeed. As we come to the end of our journey through the Dark Mechanicum's history, let's take a moment to reflect on the themes we've explored: the danger of unchecked ambition, the cost of forbidden knowledge, the consequences of betrayal, the eternal struggle between order and chaos. These themes resonate not just in Warhammer 40K, but in our own world, in our own lives. The Dark Mechanicum reminds us that every choice matters, that every decision has consequences. They remind us that the pursuit of knowledge, while noble, must be tempered with wisdom and ethics. They remind us that freedom without responsibility leads to chaos, that innovation without morality leads to horror. But they also remind us that stagnation is not safety, that refusing to change is not the same as preserving what's good. The Imperium's fear of innovation has left it weak, vulnerable, unable to adapt to new threats. The Dark Mechanicum, for all their evil, at least has the courage to try something new, to risk failure in pursuit of progress. In the end, the Dark Mechanicum is a faction defined by contradictions. They are brilliant and mad, innovative and corrupted, free and enslaved. They rejected the Emperor's authority only to become slaves to the Chaos Gods. They sought knowledge only to be consumed by it. They wanted to create only to become destroyers. Their story is a tragedy, a tale of potential wasted, of brilliance corrupted, of ambition turned to madness. But it's also a story of defiance, of refusing to accept limitations, of daring to reach for something more. Whether that makes them heroes or villains is a matter of perspective. As you drift off to sleep, think about the Dark Mechanicum. Think about their forges, their demon engines, their twisted technology. Think about the tech priests who chose freedom over security, who embraced chaos in pursuit of knowledge. Think about the cost they paid and the legacy they left behind. The Dark Mechanicum will continue to exist as long as there are those who seek knowledge without restriction, who value innovation over tradition, who are willing to pay any price for power. They are a permanent part of the Warhammer 40K universe, a dark reflection of humanity's potential, a reminder of what we could become if we abandon our principles. In the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, The dark Mechanicum forges weapons for chaos, creates demon engines and pursues forbidden knowledge. They are the nightmare of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the terror of the Imperium, and the dark mirror of humanity's technological ambition. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the dark Mechanicum's history. I hope you found it informative, engaging, and perhaps a little unsettling. The dark Mechanicum is a fascinating faction, full of complexity and contradiction, and I hope I've done them justice. As you rest now, let the story settle in your mind. Let the images of hell forges and demon engines fade into dreams. Let the whispers of the dark tongue become the white noise of sleep. You've learned about one of Warhammer 40K's most intriguing factions, and that knowledge is yours to keep. Rest well, and may your dreams be free of demon engines and corrupted technology. May you sleep peacefully, knowing that in our world at least, the dark Mechanicum remains fiction, a cautionary tale from a dark and distant future. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, let yourself drift. The dark Mechanicum story is told, and now it's time for you to rest. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to share this lore with you. Sleep well, dream peacefully, and remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But here, now, there is only rest. Good night.